I've honestly got most of the people I want. I know I'm like the end goal would be get like Empire of the Sun on something.
Oh,
Like
that'd be
I think
cool.
that would be just divine. Like, oh my gosh.
Again, thanks, Dallas, for doing this. It's about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new song, and we'll talk about Hulaween if that's cool as well.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Awesome. So, I first off, where were you born and raised? You're in LA now, right?
LA now, I've been out here, let's say like 5 years or so. I'm
Okay.
trying to like place it. But was born and raised in Portland, Oregon.
Mhm.
Kind of bounced between there and then like Eugene, Oregon. My dad like does a lot of corporate shit, so they get moved around a ton. Like they're up in
Mhm.
Seattle right now, but it's always been, kind of Northwest is where I grew up.
Northwest.
So I've always loved it there. Like I definitely like thrive there too. Like I love just overcast and everything. So that usually like puts me in a better mood. And it's been gloomy. I woke up like an hour ago and I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, why is it sunny? I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, the weatherman promised me forecast of just awful weather, just gloom and everything. I was like, yes, yes. It was like
Well, it's
production
been that
boy.
way, right? I mean, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee now, but I'm born and raised in
Oh,
San Diego. So
oh yeah.
I
Dude,
lived there
it's
until about 2.5 years ago. I mean, between there and I lived in San Francisco for a bit, but um, my mom was like, "Yeah, it's been the weather sucked for like 2 months. It's just been like
it
rainy
did
and
suck. And it like
gloomy."
got to that point where I swear to God, it'll hit that every year too, where it's just like it'll be the one day where I'm just like, can't take it anymore. Can't take this gloom, dude. And then like the sun will just come out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, it's the sun, the light. I'm like, no. And I'm like, okay, wrap it back up, back to gloom. I'm like,
Bring that overcast weather back in.
literally, and like my parents were just here visiting too, and they were just like, what are you talking about? What why have you been complaining about this gloom? I was like, what? It's like, is this a test? I was like, are they just trying me out here?
They're
Like I
like, "It's
felt like,
beautiful down here."
dude, there's some days I'll step outside and I'm like, dude, I'm pretty convinced I'm on like the Truman Show or something, but it's like the Bay Show.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah, so you're up in Portland, Oregon area. And what about how'd you get into music? You said your dad's a corporate guy, but do you have
yeah, they
arts in your family or
not really. No, I mean, we had like this. I have like this one cousin that was like always like on the artsy shit and like always had crazy hair and everything, but that's about the extent of it. So
okay.
I'm like, I didn't gather much there, but no, it was like growing up, like we weren't really like. I guess my family wasn't like artsy like that, but I always was like drawn to kind of like music and stuff, and like I was always collecting records and stuff. Like I like prided myself on that. Like did piano lessons for like a year, and I was like, oh, this is like I did when I was 12, and I was like, well, this is dumb. I'm never gonna use this again. Like, and I was just like, all right, that's dumb. And then slowly later on, it was like I was working. I used to work at Costco. Like I would push carts and stuff and do all the like grunt work and all that shit. And did that, saved up for a laptop because like one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, I hear you talking about all these like records, and I've never heard them." He was like, "You
Uh-huh.
should start like flipping these." Because I had like a lot of the Japanese stuff and everything. Like I started accruing that, and just kind of like
Yeah, how'd
tapped
you
in
kind of fall
early.
into that? Like like that's such an interesting genre to kind of
I know, and
dive
it was
into.
like, yeah, it's like now it's like fully massive, like the
Right,
whole
right.
city pop and everything. Like it's actually like fascinating. Like I'm like, I'll probably see some HBO doc on it later.
I wouldn't be
Like just
shocked.
give it a year. Give it a year. Uh
Netflix original of yeah, how that
dude, right.
music took over.
It'll be like lo-fi beats to documentary too. Like it'll be crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. But no, I got into that and I was just like, what is this sound? I was like, because I originally started just collecting them. And then I didn't grow up with like a lot of hip hop either. Like I grew up with like a lot of just like classic rock and like disco and stuff. Like I just liked that for myself. So it was like when I started getting into hip hop kind of like later on, that's when I was just like, oh, what is this sampling business? Like, what's up with this?
Mhm.
And it was just like, I was like, that's when it clicked for me when someone was like, dude, you got a stack of records in your room filling it. They're like, why don't you just start flipping them? And I was like, all right. And just kind of did that and made like a mixtape in my mom's basement, like a couple weeks, threw that up. And then it just kind of like went from there. It just kind of like took off and yeah, I've like been doing it ever since.
Were you doing that? Like, were you taking just those tracks and like, did you have them digital and you were like messing with them like in Ableton or something like
Yeah,
that?
I
Or
was
like,
like doing it
how did
all
you
like
begin with it?
it was like a combination of it too, because I remember I was trying to learn like FL Studio too at the same time. So like three of the tracks were in FL and like the rest are in like Ableton because I was still like figuring it out. And I'm
Right.
like, I know exactly which ones. And then like, but it was like, yeah, it was just like chucking samples in and just like going all day. And I was just like learning how to chop, like what sounded right, like how to layer everything, what to do. And I was just like, oh, this is really fun. I was like, what the fuck? I want to do this. I was like, pushing carts sucks, dude.
Weren't you were going to college at the time too, right? Or were you
Yeah,
okay?
I went for like, did I go for like 2 terms? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna gas myself up. We went for 2 terms total.
All right.
You know what?
Yeah,
2/3 of a year, baby. I'm like,
yeah.
damn, mom, don't be too proud.
Don't be
Oh my
too
god.
proud.
But it was like I was going to Oregon State University in like Corvallis, Oregon, and Jesus Christ, it is fucking cow tipping territory out there, dude.
Oh, is it
Like
really?
there's not a lot to do, and everybody's like really like they want to be like really country and have the big truck and like all this stuff. And I'm just like, everybody's like throwing a dip in 24/7. I'm just like, this ain't it for me, dude. And like I think like Call of Duty came out and I just stopped going to classes. And I was like, yeah, mom, I think I'm gonna withdraw. And like I was just like, Black Ops 2 sounds a lot better for me right now. And just like, and like, I just like got so sick of it. And I was just like so overwhelmed there too. Cause I'm like, I just didn't want to be around that many people 24/7 and shit. So I was just
Mhm.
like, okay, obviously that's where I'm like, even like job wise, where I was like, I need something where I can just be a recluse and just like have no bother, any of that stuff. So it
Mhm.
was kind of like, that's where like college kind of just woke me up too, where I was like, okay, I was like, this isn't it. I was like, I'm gonna be miserable. Like, so I just packed up my stuff one day and shut up at home. It was like, hey mom, can you help me
Oh,
do my
you
laundry?
moved out, you were living on campus or whatever?
Yeah, I was in the dorms and I just showed up when he was like, sorry.
Sorry.
Like, oops. I
uh
know. And I'm like, my parents didn't care, but they were just like, all right, work time. And I was like, all
yeah.
right. And then
And then
like
you went
that
to is
ended
that when
up,
you went to
yeah. And
Costco? Or were
yeah,
you
I
already
went to
working at Costco?
Costco.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked there for like 2, 3 years. But it was like great too. And it's
Yeah.
like pay was sick. Like I was able to get my first MacBook for that. And like all my music equipment, I was able to like work and everything. So there was always like this fun end goal for me. And I would be like when I started doing it all too, it was like while I was still working at Costco. And I would have like an hour and a half before I would just come home and knock out every day. Because I was like, I would also like have shifts where I'd stock all this stuff at night. Like you'd be stocking dog food, like all that,
Oh
like
man.
pallets.
Yeah, those
And it's just
huge
like
pallets.
you just come home like you're just dry and just like you feel like shit. And I would have like one spurt of like energy for an hour tops. And I'm like, okay, I gotta get music out and figure this out now. So it
Mhm.
was like I just kind of learned like an hour a day each day and just kind of like progressively went with that. And then was like, dude, yeah, I'm like, I just always, yeah, it just seemed like the easiest thing to do. And I was like, this seems natural and just kind of
Mhm.
went from there.
And so you made your first mixtape and did you put it up like on SoundCloud or like where did you
Yeah,
release it
on
to?
fuck, why am I blanking? Bandcamp.
Oh, Bandcamp. Okay.
Yeah, and I still like rally for Bandcamp hard. Like I love Bandcamp. I think it's like one of the better platforms. And like, it's like even like we were talking about SoundCloud the other day where I was like, God, what happened to that, dude? I was like,
Right.
and that because someone had showed me the app the other day and they were like, dude, the website is finally sick. And I was like, it's finally 5 years too late, dude. I was
Right,
like,
right,
what the?
right.
I was like, why are you getting me riled up?
Yeah, I was the only time I'll see people send like SoundCloud links is if it's like a private like song that
Yeah,
hasn't been released yet, right? It's like
dude,
here's a
someone sent me one of those, and I'm like, usually I'll get like a Dropbox or a box or just like the file. And
yeah.
someone sent me a SoundCloud private link for their album one day, and I was like, dog, you are on Sony and you are sending me a private link.
Dude, right. I know.
I was like, dog, you need to reevaluate yourself. I'm like, do you have an Android too? Like, what's up?
But a lot because big labels will do that, dude. I don't
Dude,
know if it's that the
literally,
artist.
I was like, dog, that was a conscious decision. You moved it off the app box. I was like, you moved it.
was a conscious.
Like, you went through the process of like uploading this, and he was like, well, I just like seeing the waveform. And I was like, all right, valid.
Well, you can see the waveform on Dropbox.
That's what I said. I was like, good Lord, dude. Oh my God.
That's
SoundCloud is
hilarious.
so fun though. Gosh.
But so it was Bandcamp. That's where you put it up.
Yeah, Bandcamp, and then it's always kind of been there too until like I ended up signing with like I was with Arista for the last part of the album, and like they were great too. I was just like ready to move on and like get back independent, where I'm like, okay, I just want to like allocate everything myself and do everything myself, you know. But it's like that's where it's been even more fun. That's like all the new stuff, like the Mayor stuff, which is like super fun.
No, that new record is awesome. I really
Dude,
like it.
Honestly, that one's one of my favorites. And it was funny because we made it super fucking quick. I think we made it in like 20 minutes or something.
Really?
And like, yeah, we were just kind of like jamming out. And I think we sat down and there was a Mellotron there or something at the studio we were at. And I was like, oh, dude, we should just like fuck with some random stuff and just like build off this. And like, it was super fun too. Like we were just sitting there messing with like, it's got this weird like pitch automation. You like, it's just a knob. You like flick back and forth. And it just like does like this, you know, high to low kind of pitch, like just like this slide. And we were just like, oh, let's just mess with that. And then started just laying everything down immediately. And like, dude is a fucking genius. I was like, dude, what are you on? I was like, you're cracked, bro.
No, it's Body Talk. It's such a rad song. And well, the album you put out is before that was Continental Groove, but it was side A. Is that like so that's the one that you did on Arista?
So this will all be on side B, yeah. And it's
okay,
like,
then you have, I was gonna ask, so side
B,
because
that was the other like reason I was like, okay, I think we need to part ways with Arista, because I wanted to do, well, I get it in hindsight now, but I wanted to do like a 30-track album, because I was like, you know, I was like, you know, I just got to get it all out now. You know, I was like, I just got to get it out of my system. And they were like, I don't think that's realistic. I was like, okay, that may be, but you know, so
hear me out.
Nice. Yeah,
let me do a double album.
Exactly. I was like, dude, but it actually worked out nicely, and they were like very keen on it, and it kind of like just allows me to kind of sit in this world and kind of like build it out and slowly just kind of have it be this living, breathing world. And so it's super fun for me too. And it's like, it's fun now too with like the aspect of like a side B, because I don't see a lot of like albums come out in this like kind of sequencing, or just kind of like, you know, like a side A or a side B. I'm like, I don't see like a part 1, part 2 very often.
No, not really, right?
So it's like it's like a challenge too, where it's like, okay, we kind of have to elevate it, but still make it seem like it fits in this same realm, all like kind of seamlessly. And, you know, whether it's art, you know, the music, anything, it's all got to like kind of seem like there's this elevation to it, but like, you know, not so jarring that they're like, what the fuck, who is this? So it's been like, it's been fun with that regard, like, especially with the music too. Like, that's where it's just gotten more fun too. And it's like, it was kind of like, oh, let's step it up more this time. And like, let's just have fun with it. So it's like just a lot more like classic sounding me on this one.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just interesting though, because I mean, all your albums have been like Bae 2, 3, 4. You know what I mean? Like you've kind of lined them that way.
Dude,
and then you're like,
I did that because I was like, I literally sat on a name generator for like 30 minutes when I was trying to make an album name when I first did that. And I was just like, fuck this. I was like, it's Bae. And then like,
but the way you've done it is rad. Like with Bae, like the third one is just BA3. You know what I mean? And then you did B4, like how you were able to stylize it. It's really
everyone
creative.
wants me to do something, because I have this Liberace tag where he's like, and now for my next number, I'd like to return to the classics, which is one of my favorite videos ever. He starts playing chopsticks.
Oh, that's awesome.
So funny. And everybody wants me to do like the next one called like Back to the Basics or something.
Oh,
or
no,
like
that's
Back to the Class 6 or something, you know?
Basics, I like that. Oh, I thought you were going to use the B as a 6.
I know, that's what I was thinking too, like a 6A. I was like, oh, sorry.
No,
I'm sick this week. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's not good. So like, okay, well, just real quick, going back to, you know, putting up your first songs on Bandcamp, like at what point were you able to leave Costco and, you know, pursue music as a job? Was that?
It was honestly like pretty quick. It was kind of like a few months after that. And it was
Oh
like,
wow.
so it moved pretty rapidly. And this is also when like SoundCloud was kind of like in its prime, like in its height. So everything was like moving pretty quickly at that time. Like honestly, that was one of my favorite times to be alive for music. Like that was height interaction, like everything.
Mhm.
Excuse me. So it was like, yeah, it trickled out pretty quick, and then followers just kind of trickled up on SoundCloud. Um, and then after that, yeah, it was like I didn't even like touch like Spotify or anything for years because I didn't know how to clear a sample to save my life. Didn't have like management or anything. I was just doing it all for like 4 or 5 years just by myself. And it was like I was like, oh, I don't need any of this. Like went on tour by myself, all that shit. Like,
Oh, really? Yeah, I was gonna ask you about
yeah,
like live shows. So like you build this community online, and then are people asking you like, oh, hey, can you come play my party, or were you
all the
DJing?
time. Yeah, like all the time. And it's like it's pretty cool too, being at like the shows and everything. Cause it's like my fan base is like definitely very unique because it's more or less like I kind of was born and rooted in this like internet born genre. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like, which is a very like foreign, it was like a foreign thing like when it all started kicking off. And now it's like, obviously you see that left and right. But it was like at the time, it was like there was so much like devotion and everything from all these people. And just like, they're still like that, like the vaporwave, future funk communities, everything, like insane dedication. So it was like, yeah, got lucky with that. And it's like at the shows too. It's always been like, oh shit. I'm like, do these people leave home? Do they leave the internet? And it was like they show
Right.
up all the time. And I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, look, going out more than me. I was like, what the hell?
That's what I was gonna
Like,
ask you. I mean, you build this community online, and then are you, you're like, okay, I'm gonna book the show in wherever, Nevada, and then you
yeah,
go there, and it's like, wow, these people that were listening to me on the internet, that found me on the internet, are like literally here now
it's
watching.
it's
That's
weird. Like when it first happens too, it was like bizarre. I was just like, what the hell is wrong with y'all? I was like, I didn't even want to take the plane here to see myself. I was like, are you kidding me?
oh wow.
Like no. And it's like it's just like, oh my gosh, like it's just such a good feeling. It's just like so cool just being able to like meet all these people too. Like we
Mhm.
always do like meet and greets and everything, and just like stick it out after the show. I'm like, you usually find me behind like the tour bus smoking a fucking joint after a show. I'm like, it's like a little crusty degenerate, just oh my gosh. I'm like, you know what, that's the secret. They know where to find me.
Oh yeah,
But
no, now you're gonna have a
no,
bunch of people rushing behind the bus at your tour.
you're right. I'm like, damn, I'm not sharing. Oh my god.
Yeah, you're like, bring your own.
I know. I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm just gonna encourage a potluck. Be like, yo, can somebody bring like a picnic table too?
With like, what would you say? Like, was there, kind of early on, and maybe doing your own tours, and finally figuring out this, getting your samples, or getting the samples cleared and all that? Like, was there a song or a moment or anything that kind of elevated you to the next, level, or do you remember like a big milestone?
Yeah. I mean, it was like right around the time. So I had Bay 5, like the one with me with the bird on my head.
Uh-huh.
Um, fucking hate birds, dude. Hate
Dude, so
birds.
do I. Oh my
That thing
God, that's awesome.
shit on my head, dude.
I
During
wouldn't
the
have been able
shoot,
to put it on my head. I would
dude,
have
I literally was in
freaked
tears. I
out.
was like, are you kidding me? And it was like the bird handler was just the weirdest guy. He was like, talk to them like people. I was like, my dude.
You're like, oh, okay. If somebody shit on me, then
I was
let me
like, all
talk to
right.
him
I
like
was
it's a
like, all right,
person.
get your girl then, dude. But no, it was like right around that time, it was like everything just kind of started clicking and just obviously like Bad Boy was coming out then too. And like that was just kind of make or break. Like it really just like one day just went on TikTok and just kept going and going and going. Um, so that was like definitely the pivotal moment. And I'm like, I still don't know anything about TikTok to this day. I'm like, I have no desire to make a TikTok at all. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Um,
me. I feel like I'm just too old, and it's like
I
cringy.
literally, I'm like, dude, I'm in my 20s. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Dance? Like,
But at least
oh,
you put out rad records. I mean, so that did you already have Bad Boy out when TikTok happened? Because I mean,
It
you put
was,
that album
yeah,
out
it
when
was kind of,
2019, right?
yeah, and it was kind of slowly like doing its thing. And I was with AWOL at the time for like distribution, and like they were awesome. And then Sony kind of like stepped in and was like, hey, we want to get this and like take over the whole project and all this. And so it was like everything started kind of like moving even more from then. Cause like as we're signing it over, that's when it was like initially picking up momentum. So that's when they jumped really quick at it.
Sure.
Which like naturally. But it was kind of like after that, yeah, they really kept like the campaign going, and that's when everything started just growing like crazy. And then we did like the remix, did like Wiz Khalifa, like Max, like all that. So it was like that was just like super fun, like pivotal moment. And then just kind of since then, it's like just every feature I've wanted and everything. I'm like, I can get it now. Like it's like not far fetched. I'm like, I got everybody I wanted on the last record. I got everybody on this one I wanted. Like, so it's like it's
That's
just been fun too, and it's all like a learning process.
yeah. I mean, the people you've had on like features and just like I love your remix of the Knox Method Man
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
I
dude,
mean,
I love
like
that one.
yeah, just looking at your just discography and the talent you've had a chance to work with. That's so. I mean, that's amazing. That must
Dude, no,
feel
it's
so
been
good.
fun. It's like, I mean, it's even like with the Mayor track that we just dropped. It's like actually very full circle for me because I'm like, I remember driving to high school listening to Mayor Hawthorne in my
Oh,
car.
really?
Like genuinely, I listened to like a lot of Mayor. Like I've been a Mayor fan like for a very long time. Like I love his stuff. Like I'm big on the tuxedo shit. So I've been like dying to work with that man, you know. And it was same with like when I worked with like AWOL Nation. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
these are dudes from like when I was in high school. I was like, this is crazy to me. Like, and it's just like such a blessing to be able to like be in the same room as them. Like you're just like, what the fuck are you wasting your time on me for, dude? You're like, oh my gosh.
With Mayor, was that when you met him or when you first worked on that track together? Was that like a I mean, tell me about were you nervous at all? Or I mean, you had been
Oh, I
doing it
was
for
like,
so long, but were you
I'm
like, oh
like,
my God,
I don't
starstruck
get
or
like nervous in sessions usually. And it's like for him, I was just kind of like, okay, like, because usually I'll do like a meetup before too and be like, okay, if I got to sit in a room with you for like 6 or 7 hours and I don't know you, I'd rather like grab a coffee first and make sure
right?
you're not crazy,
Yeah,
you know?
that's a good
And I'm
call.
like, it's just like a boundary for me where I'm just like, I've done enough sessions where I go and sit with like a rando and I'm just like, are y'all just like, I'm like, are y'all trying to interrogate information out of me? Is this a test? Like, but it was like with him, he walked in and we just like started talking. So sorry, my
Oh,
iPad
that's all
died.
good.
I was like, I never use this thing. It comes out like once in a blue moon. I'm like, now I see why.
All good. You know,
No, but
yeah, you were saying that you usually sit with people, you get coffee, make sure you're gonna
yeah,
vibe, and then with him, then it cut off. You're like with Mayor, it's
no,
like
yeah. With him, we just kind of went in, and it was like, I forgot who set it up. But like he and I had enough mutuals where it's like, like the Chromeo boys and like Oliver, like Oliver's a close friend. Like I work on a stupid amount with that guy. But like he's in the same studio as them, and like they all are just like super close. Like Oliver and them have worked on like Mayor records, all that. So it was like I was basically twice removed, it felt like. And I was like, I want to meet this guy. I want to work with this guy. And like, yeah, he just came in and like off the rip, we immediately just started like talking about rare like Motown cuts and everything. Cause I was like, dude, I was like, geez, like the 45 for that one that you were covering there. I was like, is that like that Shy Lights cover one or is it this other one cover? And we were just like bantering about random stuff. And I was just like, oh, sick. And then he was just like, all right, give me a guitar. And we just started like making music and just started ripping that. And yeah, it was
and
like
20 minutes later, you had the song.
literally, it was like an hour and a half session, I think. It was like one of the quickest sessions. Like
That's crazy.
it was just nuts. And it was just like, you can just tell when someone like has the sauce like that. Like there's gears turning up there, like for
Mhm.
sure.
How do you like? I mean, I've never asked anyone this. I'm just curious. Like, if you're in a session with someone, like you were saying, and you don't like kind of vet them beforehand, or it's like you're just sitting there, like if nothing's working, it's like how long do you have to sit there and like pretend like
Dog.
you could figure something out?
I I rush with the quickness if it's like a session where I'm just not feeling it. Like I'm like, I wish I had productivity like that most days, but I could spurt out a track real quick and I'm just like, sorry, gotta go. Cat's falling off a cliff. I'm like, bye. Like I'm just like, and I'll set a timer. Like if I'm not feeling it immediately, I'll be like, Yeah, I gotta have a hard out in 2.5 hours. Sorry.
Okay, yeah,
So
you
I like I'll
got some
set that.
tricks.
Usually it's like I'll kind of do that too to just kind of like light a fire where it makes everybody kind of work.
Mhm.
And more often than not, too, it'll end up like I'll end up tricking my own self into staying longer. Where I'm just like, oh, now we're actually working. I'm like, I can't leave this. It's like watching a movie and not finishing it. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like,
Right, right.
pain, actual pain.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, to kind of set it up as, I got a hard out in 2 hours or whatever. Then it probably cuts down on like the beforehand banter and like, oh, I gotta take a piss or like, oh, I'm gonna go get a
Exactly,
coffee, like
dude.
all that. I can imagine that stuff
I'm like, dude, I've made it this new
lagging.
ritual where I pull up. I've been postmating fucking Wetzel's pretzels to sessions just to get a reaction, just to get a reaction. And like one dude was like, "Are you really gonna touch that bag right now? Do you see it dripping?" I was like, "Absolutely, can't wait to crush this thing." Like, oh my
Uh,
gosh, I'm gonna keep doing it. I'm like, why? I'm just gonna have this bad name for myself. They're like, yo, don't pull up. Your studio's gonna smell like a pretzel, dude.
yeah,
Like, don't let
this
Young
guy
Bae pull up.
always gets Wetzel's pretzels.
Dude, I rally for them. I champion for them. I'm like, I want a sponsorship.
I was
Oh
gonna
my God.
say you should try to get him to to
I know my
sponsor
list
you.
of like desirable sponsors. I'm like, well, I need some cat litter. I need some new Converse. Probably need some socks too. Like I'm
Yeah.
like,
And Wetzel's pretzels, hook
and
me
Wetzel's
up.
pretzels.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh my God. So good.
So with this, I mean, you said you wanted 30 songs on the record for like, and then so side B are all songs that you already have done, or like,
Yeah,
in like in
it's about
picking
the
side A, were
beginning.
you like, was that a process in itself? Sorry, I'm cutting you off, but
No, no. Well, with side A was like kind of tricky to kind of narrow it down to, and there was also just like there's always like a deadline and just kind of like this, time contingencies and all this. So it was just kind of like figuring that out, and then it's kind of like trying to wrangle all the features and everything, and then figuring out what goes where. And it's like, that's where it was like we ultimately were like, let's just do this in two parts because they were like, there's obviously like a cutoff on how many tracks they want to deal with, unless I'm like Metro Boomin. I'm not doing a 30 track album. Like, so it was like, it made sense, but it was just like so exhausting. And then it was like, thankfully, they were just like, let's just break this up into two. So it was like, oh, okay, we already have all these pre existing ones that were meant for this world.
Mhm.
So they were like, oh, let's just, for side B, we can just polish these up and just, worry about the features after that. So it's been better with that too. And it just kind of gave us like this big landing strip and just kind of all this space to just, at least like plan it out and let it, do its thing, which has been fun.
That's cool. So have you picked all of the features for the side B? Is it done?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's very done. I'm like, I've already got another album done after that too. I'm like,
oh
I
my
just sit here.
gosh.
I'm like, I know I'm almost done with another one after that too. I just, I'm like, I just work all day. I
Yeah,
got
is it
nothing
hard
else
to
to
sit on those songs and be like, it's like I bet it's
do.
one of those things like where I'm asking you about, body talk, and you're like, that's great, but you should like 2 albums down. Like, wait till you hear this song.
Dog, literally, I'm like, give me like 3 years, dude. And you're gonna come and text me and be like, whoa.
You're like, oh
Like, oh
yeah,
my,
that was the
you're gonna
song we
be
were
like,
talking
that
about
track?
in January or
Yeah.
June of 2023. It's like,
I'm gonna be like, that was the one, bro. I told you it was better.
yeah, yeah. You're like, just wait, then another 7 years
Dude.
when the songs I've been
Uh
writing are gonna come
No,
out.
that shit is the worst, dude. When you just gotta like sit on shit. Like the next single I have dropping too, like it's just like I'm like the feature on that too. I'm super fucking stoked. So I'm just like, oh my God. I'm like, everybody, I'm like, all right, forget body talk now. Next. I'm like, I swear to God, I'm like a child some days. I'm just like, oh, the next shiny thing.
That's
Like,
so funny. You've probably got asked this a million times, but I'm just curious, based off features, like, is there someone that you wanted that you haven't had on a record?
honestly, I've honestly got most of the people I want. I know I'm like the end goal would be get like Empire of the Sun on something.
Oh,
Like
that'd be
I think
cool.
that would be just divine. Like, oh my gosh.
I wouldn't be shocked if you got, Luke Steele to do that. I
I
mean, he put
did
out a record not that long ago. I think like a
I know
solo album.
he played before me at Splash House this year, and I think I was pretty shroomed out, but I was definitely attempting to be like, yo, dog, you me?
let's do something.
Music, the sounds. So I'm like, we'll see where that landed, but I think there's potential, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I think that would be a rad song. I mean,
Dude,
that would
right?
be
And I'm
cool.
like, especially with everybody kind of back on the like funk and house wave and everything, I'm like, all these like mid 2000 kind of indies people kind of just lend themselves nicely to that. Like, fuck, who were we with? We were with MGMT like for a couple nights in New York too. Like those guys are super fucking dope. Love those
Oh
guys.
yeah.
Like we went to one of their shows too, and he was like spinning disco into like D&B, and I was like, all right, dog, I think we have to work on something now.
Oh,
Like,
okay. Is that some potential feature?
I'm gunning for it. And it was like shit. I'm like good friends with their manager, everything. So I'm just like, we hung out with them. I'm like, shit, tried to bait them to come to a Montauk show. They would not rally. I was like, no, but they're super nice dudes, like just like genuine people.
That's awesome, man. And you've got a handful of festivals coming up, but I want to talk
Yeah.
about the Hulaween is a big one that
I know, I've never been.
I was gonna
First
ask you. You
time.
haven't been yet?
No, honestly, and I'm like, it's fun. I'm like, I'd heard the name, and it's like most festivals they'll throw in front of me. I'm like, what festival? I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I'm
There's
so
so many
removed.
now, right?
Dude,
I
I am
mean,
so out of the loop. Like, even listening to new music, I'm just like, how do you? I'm like, I go through New Music Friday, and I'm just like, all right, I got the gist of it. Good. Like,
I recognize a couple of these names. Okay.
I'm like, all right, I'm in the loop. I'm in the loop. Cool. I'm like, I'm gonna be like the worst dad. They're gonna be like, Dad, new iPhone. I'm like, what? What's that thing? What?
Uh,
No, but Hulaween, yeah, I'd heard the name but never been to it. And also I love a good fucking Halloween. I love a good
right.
Halloween.
And it's gonna be in Florida. From what I hear, it's the venue is really cool. Like just the atmosphere of the
That
whole thing is a
is it
rad space.
outdoors?
Yeah, it's outdoors. It's
Oh,
like at
thank
some
God.
park or something. Like
Oh,
I've interviewed a couple of the other artists that are on it, and that's all I've really got as far as like the base for what it is. But
yeah.
uh
I was like, I know I was trying to figure it out myself, and like I think they sent a bunch of reference photos and stuff or something in like the offer email, and it was like, all right.
yeah, it's like there's a lot of cool jam bands on it. I mean, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and then and like some rad electronic stuff too. So
See, and I'm like, I always need a good combo at a festival too.
mhm.
Like I just get bored at some festivals where I'm just like, I'll be walking past one stage. I swear to God, I was like, I thought I was tripping out of this world one day. We were at like Crossed or something before I
Oh
played.
yeah, that
Walking
one's
around it.
pretty
They did it
yeah.
for like 3 stages now, and it was like walking back, and I was like, wasn't that guy just there? I was like, what? Wasn't he just playing that song there? And my girl's just like, no, it's completely different. So I was like, no, no, it's the same. No, like, no, this is confusing me. So I'm like, that's why I love like, it's like cool to see when they have like jam bands and stuff. Like all the Midwest ones hit it really well. Where it's
Mhm.
like, at least I get a sampler and stuff. So that's why I'm like Hulaween. I'm like stoked on that regard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I mean. The definitely the lineup is very diverse, which is cool.
Right?
And
I'm like, gotta have a little fun.
yeah, you gonna break out a costume or what?
Dude, I'm the fucking worst at Halloween. I'm not gonna lie.
So
I,
am
I
I.
love getting candy, but I'm like, I think the last several years, I literally like, um, I will just go to like a CVS and buy like scrubs for like 20 bucks. Dude, do you hear my cat going ape shit up there? What is he
Yeah.
doing?
Do you need to
Menace.
get the cat?
No, no, no. He's just crazy. Right? He's getting neutered, like my kitten.
Oh
And
my.
he's just like horny out of his mind right now, just screaming at the world in anger. And I'm like, little buddy, I'm like, I can sympathize. I'm sorry. He's like, it's okay. Poor guy.
Oh, that's too funny. Um, but yeah, I'm terrible at Halloween too. That's not my jam. I was never like a
Dude.
costume dude. I'm like,
Right? And girls will be like, well, I have to have like 3 outfit changes for the weekend. I'm just like, Jesus, I was gonna rinse these scrubs for the foreseeable future.
I'm saving these till next Halloween.
Dude, literally. I use like the fucking DJ pass half the time too, where I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna dress up. I'm just gonna say I'm me.
Yeah, I'm a DJ.
I'm like, you know what? I'll get one of those. My name is
Oh,
DJ.
there you go. There you go. That's hilarious. Well, that's awesome. I mean, you have sounds like a ton of music that's going to come out, and
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
the next albums already. Next two, it sounds like, are almost pretty much finished.
yeah.
Um, I appreciate your time today. Thank you, Dallas, so much
Dude,
for doing this, man. This has been
dude,
awesome.
thanks for having me and dealing with tech issues up the wazoo. I'm
Oh,
like, dude, I know. I'm like, went and immediately grabbed 2 chargers to just keep near me for this. I was just like plugged in. I have another one ready to go just in case.
oh, well, I appreciate that. No, this has been so much fun. I thank you for doing the video too.
Dude, no, of course. Thanks for having me. This was too
Um,
easy.
awesome, awesome. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Ooh, I always just tell them keep doing your own thing. I'm like, took me a while. Like it took me years because everybody was like, just like, oh, I don't see like the disco thing panning out and stuff. But I was just like, screw that. I was like, this stuff makes me happy. What am I going to make something else that I want to make and like pop off and then have to do that forever? I was like, that sounds miserable. Like, you know what I mean? That'd be like if I just like switched up one day. It was like, yo, I'm gonna make drum and bass. And then I just popped off of drum and bass and just started disliking it. I'm like, what if I was just stuck with that for life? I'm like, and I just wanted to do my disco thing. And so I always tell people, I'm just like, if it's making you happy, dude, like people are gonna see that and it's gonna reflect in the actual work and the art and just everything you do. And like people can see when you're stoked on your own shit too. Like it's very visible. And I'm like, people are drawn to that too, where they see that. So I'm like, I just always tell them, I'm like, head down, focus on you. Don't give a fuck about what anybody else is doing. I'm like, that's such an L if you let someone else affect your day like that. Like, such an L, dude. Oh my God. So it's like, yeah, just do your thing and like have fun with it. That's like the best part about this job. I'm like, dude, I don't give a shit.
Bringing it backward.